cooks, I'm back to you today with another recipe, and this one is for one of my favourite desserts. It's meringue, which I know is kind of a bit of a 1970s cliche, but it stood the test of time because everybody loves meringue. And this one is kind of impressive looking because you end up rolling it like a Swiss roll. Also, it's going to be filled with a homemade lemon curd, so that will take care of the egg yolks that are left over from the meringue. And that also is really zingy and very, very delicious, and it kind of balances the meringue. So I'm going to start off here. I have 5 egg whites, which I'm going to whisk until they're stiff, and then I'm going to add 275 grams or 10 ounces of caster sugar. Gradually I'm going to add it. But to start off with, in my mixer, I'm going to get these nice and stiff. So you want these to be stiff enough that you can turn the bowl upside down and they won't slide out. And we're going to add that gradually, a spoonful at a time. And it's going to end up shiny and stiff and glossy and delicious. So I'm going to spread evenly into a Swiss roll tin, which is 9 inches by 13 or approximately 25 by 35 centimeters. I have lined it with baking parchment, which I always find is the least risky of things so that they won't stick. But I think if you were stuck, you could use tin foil, but oil it first. But I don't like putting oil in your meringues, so I think you're better off with the parchment if you can get it. On the top of this, I'm going to sprinkle some chopped flaked almonds. Personally, I think hazelnuts would be nicer, but I don't have any hazelnuts, so I'm going to do it with almonds. And this is going to be the outside of your roulade when it's all done, so it'll look kind of pretty. Heat it to 180 fan or 200. Most meringues, as you know, you cook at a lot lower temperature, but we want this to stay nice and soft in the middle so we can roll it. So it's going in for 8 minutes at 180 fan or 200, and then we're going to turn it down. And while that's cooking, I have my ingredients ready for my very, very delicious lemon curd. So I have 5 egg yolks, I have the juice and rind of 3 lemons, I have 225 grams of caster sugar and 100 grams of soft butter. So the lemon curd we're going to make over a bain-marie kind of double boiler job. You want to make sure that your bowl is either stainless steel or glass or something. If you have one of those fancy old-fashioned double boilers and it's aluminium, do not use it, because the acid in the lemon juice will react with the aluminium and it will taste horrible. So you're going to have it over the top. This is going to be heating but not boiling hard, and you don't want your bowl touching the water. So we're going to start by adding in our butter and sugar and stirring those over the heat until they combine. They don't really need to be melted, they just need to be coming together. Then you're going to add in your egg yolks, your juice, and your zest of your lemons. I usually put all the gunk that sticks to the juicer as well. And you know what, even if the pips end up going in as well, I think that's fine. One of my earliest foodie memories was being in Italy when I was about 6 and eating, they all go in, eating real lemon ice cream and finding pips in it and being absolutely astounded, because that was back in the day when really we had vanilla and Neapolitan, and that was about it. So we're going to whisk this over a low heat and be patient. Don't let it get too hot. You don't want your egg yolks to curdle. So this is a kind of a slow process. Now, while I'm making my curd, my meringue has had its first 10 minutes, so it is now lovely and golden, just the right colour. You don't really want it getting any darker than that. So we're going to turn down the heat and give it another approximately 15 minutes. So I'm turning it down to 140 fan or 160 centigrade. And we'll put that on for 15 minutes and keep making curd. And I have discovered, because I've done a little research on your behalf, that lemon curd freezes perfectly well. So what I'm going to do is probably use half of this with cream in my roulade, and then I put the other half in a jam jar, which I'm going to put in the freezer. And it's absolutely fine to freeze stuff in a jam jar, just don't put the lid on until it's frozen. That is one of my recent discoveries, and it has been a bit of a revelation because I always thought it would break, but I freeze all kinds of stuff in a jam jar and it's perfect. Now once this starts heating up, the sugar will be dissolved. You want to keep it moving a bit because you don't want the eggs curdling. You don't want it kind of cooking. I mean, you want it cooking, but you want to cook it slowly. I'm going to be brave and turn the heat up under this a bit more because it's not touching the water. It's kind of taking a while to cook. I'm not very patient when it comes to some of these things. So the kind of test for knowing that these things are ready is you do with a very simple wooden spoon. You put your wooden spoon in. If you go like this, now it's hardly even sticking to the wooden spoon. It's obviously not ready. But when it's ready, you'll see a difference. Starting to thicken a little bit. This has had about 6 minutes. So this has now had about 9 minutes, and it's definitely starting to thicken a bit. Now you'll see that it's kind of coating that spoon a bit better now. But I'm going to get a bit longer. Now this has had about 12 minutes. I'm going to try and give you a close-up there. You can see it's getting nice and thick. The recipe says 8 to 10 minutes. This has had a bit more, and I'm still happy to keep cooking it. Do look like they're going to, if they do look like they're starting to curdle, fill a sink or something with cold water with ice and plunge the thing back into it. Plunge the bowl into it, and that'll cool it down and it'll stop it cooking anymore, and it'll still taste lovely. Okay, so I'm happy that this has had enough. It's had 12 minutes. It's getting nice and thick. You can see now the way it coats the spoon. That's the perfect test, that it doesn't run. So there you go. Oh my God, it tastes just lovely. So I'm going to turn that off and let it cool. And you can either keep it in the fridge for a couple of weeks or freeze it. So there she is. Delicious, zingy lemon curd. There we go, perfect timing. There's your gorgeous meringue. Nice and firm on the outside. When you roll it, obviously it is going to splinter and crack, but that makes it look nice. So don't worry about preserving that kind of loveliness of it. So I'm going to leave that to cool for a while before I roll it. So I've transferred about a third, I'd say there's about 130 grams here of the lemon curd, and I've just transferred it into a bigger bowl so it cools quicker. I think the recipe says only to use 100 grams. You're going to be folding it into some whipped cream. I think within reason, the more lemon you have, the better. So while that's cooling, I'm going to organise myself for rolling my meringue. Tip for you today is, freezing things in jam jars. So this is the curd that I'm not using. I'm not going to fill it too full because obviously it's going to expand a bit. So maybe I'll end up using the rest of it too. So here is a very useful little trick. Whenever you label things in the freezer, the labels come off. This is masking tape. Put it on your lid. It will not come off. You will know forever what's in it. Don't leave it in your freezer too long, probably. But there you go. So cool it, pop it in the freezer. When it's frozen, put your lid on, and I promise you that sticker will stay there. So this is the fun bit. This is going to be the beginning of rolling the roulade. So to begin with, you're turning it out onto a piece of parchment paper. Now, here is a clever trick. If you have somewhere that you can put it up against, like a, wall or something, if your counter leads onto anything like that, that is the best way to do it. So you're literally tipping it out just like bags of that. Now, when I was flipping over my meringue earlier on, I didn't actually show you the proper way to do it, and I didn't do it the proper way, and it didn't work as well. This is the way. Okay, so you have your tin, you have your beautiful fluffy meringue, you get your paper which you're going to have. I had it on the surface, but don't do what I did. Do it like this. Put the paper on top. There's your meringue. Get your baking rack thing, okay? Invert it on top, flip it over, and pull out the rest. And there is your turned out meringue. That's how you should do it. It's very forgiving. And you're going to roll off your paper. I'm doing this while the meringue is still warm. And it comes away very easily. And actually, you could scrape all that gunk off and use it again. It's absolutely perfect. So it's kind of spongy in the middle. It's going to be lovely. So when that cools, we're going to put the cream and the curd on top and roll it. Now, this is the fun part, the rolling. So what I'm going to do is I'm putting it up against an edge like that so I can get a bit of kind of a push. I'm also going to trim the long edges. I'm sure I'll find someone who would love to snack on those, just to give it a slightly more even edge. Oh, yum. Right, so I'm going to take those away. And then what you're going to do... Now, I've had a culinary debate with a friend of mine, who shall be nameless, who reckons you should roll it this way. Absolutely not. I think you have to go this way. You want it to be big and fat and generous. And personally, I think this is a really great kind of alternative dessert for Christmas, because it's everything that a Christmas pudding isn't. It's light and it's zingy and it's refreshing and it's lovely. So it's a nice alternative. Now what I've done here is I have trimmed, I've probably actually gone slightly too far through, but you want to go most of the way through your near end here. And then we're going to slather the filling on, and then we're going to roll it. My whipped cream, the recipe says 300 mils. I have used one of these 220 something mils. I've done less than it says. I'm going to use more of this, and we'll see how it looks. You can follow the recipe exactly if you wish, but I'm just being kind of convenient here. So what it says to do is to kind of marble these two together. So I have about 130 grams of my very delicious and incredibly zingy lemon curd here. I also have a little bit left over, the stuff that didn't fit in my jam jar. So depending on how strong this is, I think when it comes to lemon curd, more is definitely more. And it kind of cuts the sweetness of the meringue. So I'm actually going to add that stuff as well. So there's probably 150, 200 grams maybe there. Good blast of it. So this is the fun bit. So you've cut your bit here, and what you're going to do there, you're going to use this to roll it with. So you're starting here to get it nice and tight, so it's not going to be kind of gapey in the middle. And you're just going to push it and push it and make sure it's starting to go round and push it. Ah, yum. Now, this is where your wall comes in. It's kind of handy if you've got something to push it against. Not vital. Now you can see it's cracking. Oh my God, it's so soft and lovely. And then for the last bit, you can, let's see now. Now, and your seam is going to go at the bottom. So I'm going to transfer that onto a plate now. What to do is just slide it in under the paper. Use the paper to lift it. Roll it over, and that is the most delicious dessert. And I think rolling it that way is necessary because you've got plenty of depth there and body, and you'd easily get, oh my God, how many portions? You'd easily get about 8 portions or more. And that would freeze. You could wrap that now in tin foil. You could freeze it for Christmas if you want to be really organised. I'm going to have, like, I think we'll have a slice each for dinner. And then I'm going to wrap the rest of it and freeze it. Now I'm actually going to make a really quick little raspberry coulis just to go with this, because the flavours, the raspberry and the lemon, go really nicely together, and it also makes it look really pretty. Get my lid and give them a buzz. That'll be lovely to serve with it. So that's your treat for the weekend. Lemon meringue roulade with a raspberry coulis.